We're here this morning with Michelle Stumbo and Avalon Havan. And this is the fourth and final, where in Ohio is it, for 4-H Equity Month. And this is Don't Diss My Ability Week. So Michelle has managed the 4-H Camp for Youth with Disabilities, and she's going to share a little bit about that this morning, and Avalon's going to help me ask her some questions. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So Michelle, let's start there. How long has that camp, because Canter's Cave, thank you for the clues you provided. I turned them into little poems. You'll see those, or actually you have already seen them on Facebook because this is the future. How long has Canter's Cave had the Camp for Youth with Disabilities? Because I know it's been a 4-H camp since like the 1940s.
We started Ohio 4-H Special Needs Camp probably about 15 years ago, and it started because one of our educators had a daughter who had some needs that could not be accommodated at our typical camps. So she started it as a way to be able to let her daughter have a camp experience.
That is wonderful. Now, who exactly does your camp serve? Like what counties? Are there any specific people that you try to target to help come to your camp? But like who exactly, what counties do your camp serve?
We are open to the whole state. And actually we have a couple kids who come back who have moved out of state since they were in Ohio their first year at camp. And as long as we have space, we'll continue to take them as much as possible. We target any camper who have unique needs that could not be accommodated in a typical camp setting. So our campers sometimes have some medical issues that we couldn't handle at a typical camp. Sometimes they have some behavioral issues. So it kind of runs the gamut. And we work with those parents and caregivers to work out what those campers need when they get there.
That's really awesome and seems very inclusive of all types of abilities. Now, what exactly activities do you do or have for the campers? Is it like a normal camp, just kind of changed? Or do you have some specific activities that you do?
We try to do all of the normal camp activities that we can. For instance, the screenshot behind me at the moment is our campfire circle. And up until a couple of years ago, our campers had never been able to go to the campfire circle because it involves a bridge that has 2 stairs, and we have some that are in wheelchairs, and just we couldn't get them over that in the dark at night. So a few years ago, we actually got a little bit of extra grant money and have ramps that we now put on the campfire circle when we need them, when we know we have a camper coming in that has that need. So it's been 3 years now that we've been able to have campfire at the campfire circle instead of inside the main lodge, and they love it. So we try to do whatever our typical camps do. We just try to modify it. So for instance, we have a small, we call it a lake. It's probably a pond. And for years, our campers couldn't do anything except fish because we couldn't get them on the water. So several years ago, we got some additional support and we're able to get motorized paddle boats. So we can now work with some of our volunteers and transfer those campers in. And now there's just a motor and a button they push, and we can put them in the boat with a volunteer, and they can navigate the pond. And it's been a blast. So we try to do all the things that our typical camps can do, but we modify it for what our campers what they can and feel comfortable doing.
That is amazing. That kind of just puts a smile on my face, the fact that you're giving chances to kids that normally don't get them. And so that just makes me very happy. So how many kids every year attend?
Typically, we have between 15 and 20. It is very much a small group. And then we have those campers come in with a caregiver as well. And sometimes we have the whole family. We have some families that they bring their brothers and sisters, that this is their vacation for the year because they know that, you know, one sibling won't have to stay at the hotel because they can't do whatever's being done. So we really run it's kind of a small group. It's kind of we consider it a camp family. And we have kids that come back year after year. So we do have an alumni group that we added in a few years ago because we had kids that we've been doing this for 15 or so years, and we had kids that have been camping with us since they were 10. And I can't tell them that they can't come to camp. So we added an alumni group that they stay in a little bit different part of the lodge, but they still have meals together, and they're still great resources for our younger camper parents as they're trying to navigate all the resources and additional services that their kids might need.
That's amazing. Now, for all of those who kind of listen to this interview and say, hey, I want to get involved, what do you have to do to be a volunteer for this camp? Are there any specific requirements you have to fit? Do you have to go through training? So what exactly do you have to do to be a volunteer?
So we have a few different ways to volunteer. So we do take teen counselors. So most of our Ohio 4-H camps run with teen counselors as our primary counselor source. So there is an application that teens can fill out to volunteer for this camp. And their fees are paid typically through a Ohio 4-H Foundation grant. And that application is currently online and is due April 30th if they'd like to participate in that. There is, like I said, it is an application process. So we do have interviews and training that goes along with that on site. And then we ask that they're a counselor in their home county so that their training hours are handled. We do also pull in some adult volunteers, primarily for different events. So we might pull in some volunteers to help. For instance, we have a 4-H club that brings out some horses typically, and they have some equipment that helps us get kids on horses, and they have some co-riders that are trained on how to do that well. So we might need some extra people to be walkers for that group, or different events that we do. And one of the best ways to support and volunteer is to give. We've done a ton of work to Canter's Cave over the last 15 or so years to make that facility more accessible. But there's always more work we can do.
Well, thank you so much for answering all of my questions. That's all I have for you. And this camp absolutely sounds wonderful. And I am so glad that you guys are more inclusive of individuals that have different disabilities. So I really appreciate the way camp goers are doing to help kids have an equal playing field.
Thank you. It's honestly one of my favorite weeks of the year. The smiles that we get, we have abilities from, we have a couple campers who are completely nonverbal, and you get the best grins that can just make your day. And we have a couple campers who, they really do run the gamut on medical needs, on social needs, on physical abilities. So we welcome anybody, and if they have any questions, they can contact me.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. Speaking with Rob and I, we really appreciate it, and Ohio 4-H definitely appreciates the work that you do.
Thank you. We're happy to do it.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thank you, Avalon, too.